Hello, good afternoon. My name is Herbal Santiago and I'm an educator. Today we're going to analyze a text, and this time the non-literary text that we're going to analyze is a news article. Again, this is part of the series of preparation for my students so that they can adequately answer paper one or the guided textual analysis part of the IBDP program. When we analyze the text, again, we will use the framework of analysis, the OPVL analysis. Now, what is the article that we are going to analyze? This is actually the news article that we're going to analyze. Now, allow me to read it for you so that you know what it says. It's a little bit small on my other device. Okay, so it's NYC police official mental illness a factor in recent anti-Asian attacks by VOA News, April 2, 2021. Um, the new head of a New York City Police Department task force on Asian hate crimes said Friday that a history of mental illness was a common factor among the suspects arrested in recent high-profile attacks on Asians in the city. NYPD Inspector Tommy Nang was assigned to lead the task force this week following an attack on 65-year-old Asian woman Monday. The attack was caught on security camera video, which went viral on social media, showing the suspect throwing the woman to the ground and stomping on her. In an attack the week before, also captured on video, a young Asian man was beaten and choked to unconsciousness on a New York subway. In an interview with the Associated Press, Nang said the Asian American community has had a tendency to not report these kinds of crimes. He said he believed that raising awareness of the assaults would help bring people forward. He also said that language barriers are always a problem reporting crimes, and that is why his team has multilingual detectives. The New York attacks are part of a national spike in anti-Asian hate crimes across the United States, which have drawn widespread attention and condemnation from celebrities to U.S. President Joe Biden. The surge in violence has been linked to misplaced blame on Asians for the COVID-19 pandemic. The NYPD said it had increased patrols on Asian neighborhoods, including using undercover officers to prevent and disrupt attacks. But Asian American Federation Deputy Director Ju Han told the Associated Press many people in Asian communities do not trust law enforcement. She is spearheading an effort to train a team of volunteer safety ambassadors to de-escalate racial charged incidents while they are happening. New York City has seen 35 hate crimes with Asian victims so far this year, compared with 11 such attacks by the same time last year, according to Wire News reports. All right, so that is the news article. On one hand, it seems to be a simple news article, but today we will go beyond, all right, and we will uncover, um, the, we will analyze it further. Now, we will use OPVL, origin, purpose, value, and limitation. Now, let's look at the origin. Again, the origin is United States of America. Um, United States of America, the news came there because the increase of the anti-Asian hate attacks are happening there. Um, it is released by VOA News. VOA News seems to be a reputable company, and it was released last April 2, 2021. Today is June 2021, and so it's actually very recent. And maybe at this time, anti-Asian attacks is happening somewhere else. So this is to say that this is very timely. All right, anti-Asian attacks are happening to Asian people right now, right this very minute. And so it is very important for us to talk about it. Now, this is a news article. On one hand, the purpose seems to inform people about the escalation of attacks against Asians in America. And the textual evidences that prove that is that it references footages, the viral video of the attacks, and it actually cites statistics: 35 hate crimes against Asians this year compared to 11 last year. On one hand, it seems to inform us about the escalation of attacks, right? However, if we look at it deeply, we see that beyond just telling us, there's actually a rather a more straightforward purpose. It seems to convince people that authorities are doing their best to resolve the situation. The article seems to build the credibility of the authorities. It seems to give a narrative that the authorities are doing everything they can to solve the problem. So the America, although it is happening in America, at least the American authorities are doing something about it. So it is actually trying to gain back trust and credibility. And how does the article prove that? The first is there is an establishment of credibility by talking to Inspector Tommy Nang, the head of the New York City Police Department. Notice that the person that the authorities put in charge is actually a half Asian person. There is a recognition of Tommy Nang's unique connection, perhaps, to the Asian community by virtue of being half Asian. So there is that credibility. There is that attempt to build connection, and truly, Tommy Nang identifies that the authorities are doing things to build trust, and that includes increased patrols in Asian neighborhoods, including using undercover officers to prevent and disrupt attacks. So it seems to build the trust to authorities, and precisely because the one that is heading uh the the operation is an Asian man, and a half Asian man himself. He does understand that multilingual barriers is actually one of the barriers that prevent Asian people from asking for help. And so one of the solution is to provide multilingual detectives. All right. Notice that in in my analysis, I have identified a specific part from the news article. It is very important that when you analyze, you have to reference, you have to get textual evidences because it solidifies your analysis. All right. So that is the purpose, not just to inform, but actually to change people's perception of the credibility of the authorities. All right. Why is this important? It is important because it seems like there is a lack of trust against authorities in America. Now, the news article has not discussed that in depth, but there is the mere fact that it is actually building its credibility allows us to question, why does the America need to do that, right? Is it not a safe place before? Is it not an easy place to ask for help before? And so it is very important to build that credibility because today, more than ever, there is a need to safeguard the safety of Asian Americans precisely because the threat is looming nearer now more than ever. All right. So there is a need for the people to trust law enforcement again. And the article is actually identifying the effort of other Asian American Federation organization headed by Ju Han, who is actually training a team of safety ambassadors. It is very important that Asian Americans trust authorities again because it will mean the safety of their lives. That is the value of this article. Now, if we move on to the limitation, the things that you will see is that there is a mention of mental illness as a factor in recent anti-Asian attacks. To a certain extent, that's a limitation because there is a sensationalization of mental illness as a factor. It is actually the one that is used as a heading. However, the article fails to explain and actually further elaborate on mental illness, right? When we read the article, it only mentions that in the beginning and did not provide enough examples to explain it. So, Why is the lack of examples such a crucial detail? Without further elaboration, there is a tendency to demonize mental illness. There is a tendency to blame them for the attacks. On one hand, we are now marginalizing one group of an already marginalized minority group, and so it becomes another burden, another systemic problem. The second is that it might be causing the oversimplification of systemic racism. If we just blame mental illness, then we might fail to see the other reason or the other factors that account for the continued rise of the anti-Asian attacks. Again, the anti-Asian attack seems to be systemic, right? And so, what we're doing in this article is we're actually we're evaluating and analyzing a news article and how it actually reports on the crime. The way it is reporting the crime is actually changing the way readers perceive the news. And so we need to be worried of the ideas. All right. We need to be worried of the ideas that it seems to say. Now, um, this is the reference. All right. Um, and just like the other video, this is part of the series of lectures and lessons about Asian hate. Um, Recognizing and analyzing news articles and the way it shifts our perspective is my contribution and my class's contribution to changing the narrative of Asian hate. Once again, my call is to hashtag stop Asian hate. My name is Herbal Santiago. I'm a writer, I'm an educator, and some of the writings I've created are in Herbal Santiago Manonulat.wordpress.co. Please give it a read if you have the time. That's it for today. I hope you do well, and I wish you the best in life. Bye.